my work just representing farmers, I am in groups, communities of men who are farmers across the country. And when one of them is okay talking about his mental health, others start to step up. So I can see how that would really work.
Yes, absolutely. It really just takes one person to risk being vulnerable, and then the dominoes start to fall.
Today, I'm really excited to be talking with Nick Weshinskey. Nick is an education assistant professor and a nationally certified counselor who's working for the Southern Illinois University School of Medicine in the Farm Family Resource Initiative. Nick, how are you doing today? Thanks for joining us. I'm really excited to jump right into some fun questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lindsay, for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Great. So, mental health is a taboo subject in a lot of close knit farming communities, rural communities. Based on your work, how do we start breaking down some of the stigma around that issue?
Yeah. Well, stigma is a significant barrier to people in the ag community, to any community, really. One thing that I've started to think about in terms of the ag community is framing help seeking as you would maintenance. So, ag industry professionals, producers, they spend a lot of time maintaining their equipment, their combines, and things like that because they're really expensive and they're really significant to the work that's being done. And I would argue that the producer, the farmer, is the most valuable thing on their balance sheet. And so if they think about themselves as equipment, that takes the emotion out of it. And what do we do to maintain ourselves? Well, we go to the doctor, we attend to our mental health. I think also plugging into communities where this is just kind of a normal thing. We check in with one another. That's part of the helpful process too. With the Farm Family Resource Initiative, for example, we have groups that we host and things like that to help break down some of the stigma. It's helpful to see others who are like you going through similar things.
I think that is such a great way to frame it. I can see that I grew up on a farm. I could see that really speaking to some people in my rural community. Um, yeah, every farmer has a spare tire, a spare part, a spare whatever. So thinking about your mental health in terms of just regular maintenance and making sure you have a resource and a reserve within you to be able to pull from when needed is probably really valuable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I also noticed that your specific research includes men's studies. And so many of our farmers are men. And what are some of the most pressing issues you've observed in men's mental health that we can bring to this discussion?
Yeah. So men, I think, are in a tough spot. Men in general are socialized not to express emotion. Um, the only emotion that men are okay to express is anger. So if you see an angry man, like no one stops and thinks, "Oh, what's wrong with him?" That's just kind of a normal thing. But if you see a man who's crying, you tend to think something's really going on. And so men are again socialized not to express emotion, but that doesn't mean that they don't experience emotion. They experience lots of emotion. We also know that the suicide rate for men is something like 4 times higher than it is for women. And so it really puts men in a bind when they experience a lot of emotion and yet they're told they can't express that emotion. It can lead to some pretty drastic results. So I think one thing that we can do for men is affirm the positive traits that men typically have. I think it's very fashionable to rag on men a little bit, but I think men have a lot of positive traits that we can lean into. So men really value courage and risk taking stereotypically. And heroism. And you think about, well, what is it? How can you be the hero of your family when you're struggling? Maybe the courageous thing is to get help when you don't want to get help. Men often are socialized in groups, so there's Boy Scouts and fraternities and teams. And maybe again, finding community is a part of helping men battle the struggles that they have.
I feel like I've seen some of this play out in, I mean, my work just representing farmers. I am in groups, communities of men who are farmers across the country. And when one of them is okay talking about his mental health, others start to step up. So I can see how that would really work.
Yes, absolutely. It really just takes one person to risk being vulnerable, and then the dominoes start to fall. It makes it okay. In counseling, we call that normalizing. It kind of normalizes the experience and gives people permission to share where they're really at also.
We are going to pivot now from what is a very serious topic, to be taken very seriously, to our feature on this show called Not to Be Corny. Are you ready?
I'm so ready. I've been looking forward to this the whole time.
Great. So, not to be corny, but did you hear about the farmer whose whole left side was cut off?
No.
He's all right now.
That's great. I love that. I love that.
That's a great dad joke you can use with your family, friends, relatives, whomever that would work for. So,
I'm writing that one down.
Nick, thank you so much for joining us today. I've learned a few really great nuggets, and I hope our listeners have really paid attention as well. Your expertise is appreciated.
That's my pleasure. Thank you so much, Lindsay.